RWBY, Volume 5, Episode 2, Dread in the Air. What happens? The episode begins with Leo and Watts talking with Salem and Cinder through some seers. They discuss the Spring Maiden, and after some threats, Salem instructs Watts, Cinder, Emerald, and Mercury to head to Raven's tribe to get the Maiden. She then instead says Watts needs to help Tyrion with his tail, and the conversation ends. Salem and Cinder talk about some more villain stuff when we jump over to Weiss. After admiring the floating landscape, she and the pilot encounter the ships that had signaled for help before. The two then engage the Lancers, resulting in one of the coolest action sequences of the volume. The battle ends up with the ship getting damaged and the two crash land. We then cut to Sienna Khan and Adam talking about White Fang stuff. Hazel joins the conversation, says very little, and Adam proves that Sienna's soldiers would rather follow him. Adam kills her and takes the throne. The episode ends with Weiss getting found by Raven and her bandits. I guess we'll start off with how clunky the dialogue is in this scene. Leo mentions not wanting to waste Salem's time, but then Watts butts in to do just that. Most everything Watts does in the scene is unnecessary. Mocking Cinder, alluding to getting info from Crow. Watts just isn't offering anything super important here. I'm glad they just pretend to establish that Cinder was all better now. It's been like a day between volumes. Volume 4 she couldn't speak, and now she can do whole sentences. Why not show her be able to barely choke out some words near the end of Volume 4? While it's nice that she has some rasp to her voice now, the way it is makes it feel like she suddenly got better overnight. Why does Salem congratulate Watts when Leo says, "I found the Spring Maiden"? Bitch, Leo just told you he did it! I don't see any reason to deny Leo any praise. And on top of that, why does she attack him? For speaking out of line? Cinder and Watts do that every time they open their mouths. It feels like a lazy way to establish that Leo's a turncoat and make sure we all know he's the cowardly lion, even though both of those are very obvious. While this scene does a good job establishing Salem as cruel, it's done so ham-fistedly. This is especially disappointing because in Volume 4 she was consistently nice to her followers, while still being rather intimidating. This doesn't make any sense. Salem says,
"Cinder, you and your team will meet with Dr. Watts and together convince Raven Bronwyn that the survival of her people depends on her cooperation."
Watts says he understands, and Salem says,
"Not you, Arthur. Tyrion's in need of a new tail."
What? She just told him to do shit with Raven and immediately contradicts herself to give him a different task, as he agrees to his first job.
"Cinder, you and your team will meet with Dr. Watts."
Understood.
"Not you, Arthur."
Maybe she means, before the Raven stuff, come help Tyrion, or after the Raven stuff, come help Tyrion, but it's so unclear here. It's as if the writers had to flip to the next page of the script once Watts speaks, and they completely forget what they had just written on the previous page. Go here and do this thing. Got it. Oh no, I need you to do this other thing. Why was this written so bad? And how did no one notice? Wow, Cinder's hate boner for RWBY pervades throughout almost all of her dialogue. I sure hope that goes somewhere. We get it. They established that Leo's a turncoat like 5 times throughout the first 2 episodes.
If Ruby Rose has learned to harness her gift, then you must take care to protect yours.
Ruby's eyes aren't brought up again, and when she accidentally does eye stuff later, it's completely inconsequential. Salem threateningly asks Cinder to bring her Tyrion, but we never see him throughout the volume. I know he's not dead, because Watts is gonna make him a tail, so why even have this line? You're just setting up nothing. If you tell us something's gonna happen with Tyrion and Salem, we expect to see it or its outcome. Will that happen next volume? Probably, but these volumes should be satisfying to watch individually as well. You can't bank on 3 volumes making up a full season when we get each volume a year apart. Wouldn't it have been smarter for the pilot to stay on the channel with the SOS signal? That way he would know what location to avoid running into them. I also can't help but wonder why these ships are made of wood. It's super susceptible to damage. I mean, the cargo ship Weiss is in takes the Lancer stingers about as well, but it just seems odd they'd make their ships out of such weak material when they live so close to Grimm designed to pierce things. Weiss does an awful lot of unnecessary twirls and stuff during the fight, but it's fine. She never gets to make contact with the Grimm, and doing this keeps her feeling active when she has to stay relatively stationary. If your dress wasn't so dang short, I wouldn't have to look at the awkward scene where your legs meet the edge of your skirt so much. The part where the pilot shakes off the Lancers using the gravity of one of the islands is a little too slow. It would help if it was intercut with Weiss still fighting. As it is, it seems Weiss just stopped for a bit for no reason. I wish the Queen Lancer looked a bit more special, rather than simply being a bigger bee. During the shot where you see him wake up, I hadn't realized this one was any different from the others that had been chasing the two. Slap some more spice on that thing, like how you do for every bigger, scarier Grimm in this show. I sure am glad we set up Weiss struggling to summon in Volume 3 so she can just jump to being a master of it overnight. This is actually a really cool finale to the fight. It's animated well, and even though I don't like the song, it's timed up with the action superbly. It seems Weiss needs to learn how to shield herself without putting others in danger. But they didn't force feed that information down our throats in the dialogue, so I'm sure it'll never come up. Why is this room so fucking big? So I had assumed High Leader Khan would be a hottie to replace my lost husbando Torchwick. While my assumptions of her hotness wasn't wrong, I don't think Sienna would make a very good husbando. That aside, her design is rad, making it a bit of a shame she had to die so quickly. I fucking hate Adam's new design. 1. Why do you even get a new one? Just to rub in Sun's lack of outfits into my face? 2. His old design looked great. Part Yakuza, part gentleman, and not only fit his character in the show, but was a better allusion to the beast he's based off of. 3. It just looks dumb. It's as if they looked at it and said, we have a lot of characters with belts, let's try to make one without so many, and decided to just replace all the belts with useless zippers. And on top of all of that, Adam sucks. His lines are over the top, and his performance is consistently the most hammy acting in the series. He's a cartoon villain, with zero depth and an edgy voice. Monica Rial does a good job voicing Sienna, which makes it a shame that most of her lines are poorly done exposition. She insists on telling Adam stuff about the two of them he already knows. When I first watched this episode, I kinda just blacked out whenever Sienna talked. I guess I was just looking at her cool outfit. But now that I'm paying attention, her dialogue is super clunky. Hazel intrigues me the most out of Salem's gaggle of evil, so I was really excited when he showed up for this episode. However, he kinda doesn't do anything. He says he doesn't want to fight, and then Adam just continues talking as if Hazel had never entered. Hazel's only really here for Adam to use him as a scapegoat, but why not make him a more active member of the scene? Having Hazel enter the conversation earlier would have also given Sienna an excuse to exposit backstory, explaining everything to him.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
So, it's sad that such a cool character design went to waste on Sienna, but killing her off is honestly one of the best things to happen for the show. I don't like Adam. He's abusive and overdramatic. I liked Sienna. She didn't just look nice, but she had ideals about the fondness that were way more agreeable than Adam. Having him kill her makes us hate Adam more, while also establishing him as a real threat and not just all talk. By giving Sienna a cool design and professional voice actor, the surprise of her death was also super effective, making this one of the best scenes plot-wise for RWBY. An unfortunate problem to this, though, was that, until recently, everyone already thought Adam was the leader of the White Fang. The scene is great, but it also just means he actually has all the power now that we all assumed he already had from the beginning. And I still hate his cheesy as fuck supervillain attitude. Hey Raven! I can totally see up your skirt. Seriously, if you're going to insist on all the girls showing so much leg, stop putting them at angles where we can see up them. It's not even a panty shot. We're just looking at an awkward clump of fabric around their legs. And so, that's Dread in the Air. I had an awful lot of negative things to say about the episode, so it may surprise you to hear that this is actually one of my favorites of the volume. Almost all the dialogue is clumsy exposition, but the plot progression and fun fight leaves me satisfied by the end. That being said, there are a lot of problems with this episode. The entire first 6 minutes with the villains feels unnecessary. All it gets done is re-explain stuff we already know and tell us what the villains' plans are. I'd rather not be privy to every step of the enemy's plans, as that way the viewer can be surprised by the baddies like the heroes are. It's also mighty tiring to have to watch the heroes struggle to figure out what the villains are up to when the viewer knows it all already. I found myself regretting calling this scene pretty good in my last review. I had remembered it being nice, but once I actually paid attention, I noticed how it's just the villains stumbling over lazy writing and exposition. Luckily, the fight really stands out. It's fun and animated well, and lacks any of the annoyingly cocky villains that plague the rest of the episode. The Lancers were a fun new addition to the underutilized Grimm lineup, and I found myself getting oddly attached to the pilot. I loved the attempt at developing Adam as a villain, with him killing Sienna being the scene I praised the most during the original run of the volume, making it a shame that all the dialogue around the murder is a bit of a slog to get through. Solid world building, getting to see too much of the villains, and a fun fight made this feel like the real first episode of the volume. And while it's definitely not perfect, it's fun enough to leave you happy by the end of it.